Hey guys, so on this edition of the Shade Report, we're gonna go over why most people think that South Korea's First Lady sucks at her job. Second, we're gonna show how President Biden shaded President Yoon at the NATO summit. And if you're not that nerdy, we are going to go over why the new BTS members, after going solo and being out in the real world by themselves, should stay away from the after parties, because we got some photos of V and Lisa and some weird people at the after party I just gotta show you. And lastly, we're gonna talk about how to interpret the new release by Jungkook and Charlie Puth, and what other insights that might have shown about what's really going on behind the scenes. Alright, you guys, so if you don't know the full backstory of our First Lady, you can check out my other videos, because we go really in depth on her basic shady rise to where she is, though I have a lot of sympathy now for her, but I still don't trust her. The thing is, most Korean people also apparently feel the same way. A recent poll showed that 56.3% of the people polled, about 1,000 people, but that's the usual number of the presidential polls and stuff, say that she is not doing a good job. Out of this 56%, 41% said that she's doing an extremely poor job, and almost 15% are saying that she is doing an inadequate job. The people who thought that actually she was doing a good job versus a bad job were people in their 60s and above, but every other age bracket says that she's doing horribly, and the age group that hates her the most are people in their 30s, because I think they know what's going on. And I think maybe the older people can somewhat understand and accept that she had to hustle to where she went, and maybe in not so pretty ways, because that generation pretty much did that. But I think the 30s are seeing that even that kind of mechanism to rise isn't really working, and nor do people want to be that kind of greasy. So I think people are feeling, in that group, frustrated because it's unfair. Then how are you supposed to succeed? She is a symbol of Korea being a place where you have to lose your morals in order to succeed. She even had very high negative views in the southeastern region of Yeongnam, which is typically a conservative place of voters. And so this goes across the spectrum. We saw that, President Yoon won by a narrow margin. But I find that it's a bit unfair because she had been so controversial and such a liability to the presidential race that they pledged that she would not take on the official duties of First Lady. Well, we've seen her kind of slide around that, where basically in Korea she's met with like every former First Lady who's still alive, and now that she is accompanying her husband, our president, to the NATO summit in Madrid, she is meeting up with all of the first ladies there. So in some aspects, she is allowed to be the first lady when it would be weird if other leaders around the world were saying like, where's your wife? And so in that aspect, she's allowed to go, but she is stuck in a hard place because she has not been given any official roles and duties, and so she can't really do a job. If she's not doing her job well, we kind of took that away from her. So how is she supposed to do good at a job that she is not allowed to do? Now, what is behind this strained expression, and I'm sure she's also feeling it, I do think that part of the reason why Korean people don't think she's doing a good job especially as a public figure. Korean people, they're basically like one step away from always wanting to elect a strongman. So there's still kind of this feeling that people like seeing somebody who is assertive, sure of themselves, and is on a clear mission and directive. Now, those are usually admirable qualities, but a lot of the times the ones that they actually gravitate towards and get sucked in by are the psychopaths and cult leaders who have a strong, outward personality, promise something clear, and are on a clear path to supposedly provide it to you. And that in itself would be doing a good job. Now, the problem is that a lot of those times, those personalities that attract people and seem like, oh, that's the that person is so aware of themselves. Usually, if it's kind of in a crazy arena, it's a false self, a false image that just uses other people. And I kind of get the sense that she is on a life-altering road right now for the better if she chooses to accept it. And I think she is, because it comes with some humility, and I think she's kind of in a sad, depressed moment right now, because now that she is the first lady but not the first lady, she adopted another identity. She can't go back to her old identity, and I would argue that her old identity was a false identity anyway to begin with, that had gotten her married to like the chief prosecutor and now the president of South Korea. But she can't go back to that person. She doesn't know how to be a first lady. I think that's why she went around and met all the former first ladies, even to some political, people were saying like, why are you meeting the wife of the ex-dictator? And she got advice from Jill Biden, President Biden's wife, and she just said, just be yourself. Now, I think Jill Biden may have picked up on something, that maybe Kim Gun-hee was giving off the vibes of like she's kind of lost herself. She doesn't know where she's, she doesn't know her role. She could have just, if all went well and people weren't so freaked out by her shadiness, she could have just moved from the former false self into a new false self as the role of the first lady. But she's being kind of conflicted here, and if you don't have that core, then you really are lost. For somebody who had the core, and let's say they just wanted to be a shady self, okay, fine. And then if they were denied the full privileges of being a first lady, then be fine. I am still who I am. But for people like that, I think she is really adrift. I think she's probably like kind of like wandering around in the ocean somewhere, not knowing exactly which way is to shore, whether she wants to go to shore, how she even got here. And so she met with the first lady, of course, Jill Biden, and, you can tell that she was going through the motions, but with a really strained kind of face and emotions. They tried to make it sound good, like, what she was doing, and, when she met with the Queen of Spain, the Queen of Spain was like, oh, I have so many Korean cosmetics because when I went to Korea, all the women were beautiful. I had to buy up all the Korean cosmetics I could. And so, they're showing that she has like social skills, and she went to the Korean Cultural Center that was established in 2011 in Madrid, and she was there for encouragement, but you can totally tell she was just strained. However, if there is some sort of lifesaver out in the ocean where she's wandering, I do feel like she should emphasize more on these cultural centers or art, because that is supposedly, apparently, her center, like her expertise is contents management or arts, or she kind of brings in like some art gallery shows or things like that. I think she should probably go towards a place where she has some sort of technical mastery that's not faked, and that she can really find a center there and then reestablish who she is before the shadiness, and try to grow it back, you know, redial, reset, and then maybe grow back from a point where she is genuine, but is still a new self. And so maybe that can be her job on her own that she pursues that would keep her busy, out of trouble, because now she has the luxury of not having to be that former self to hustle and hustle and hustle for money. Now, I do believe she probably is set for life, and she doesn't have to worry about her material condition anymore. And she could be greedy, but she kind of doesn't strike me as such, but I don't know. We don't know. But as long as she's not greedy, she has now the luxury of just focusing on herself and finding that out, and maybe by example, encouraging other women who are also 50, because she had that conversation with the Queen of Spain, like, oh, we're the same age. Oh yeah, beauty. And so maybe encourage other people, especially in her demographic, to kind of pause and take some time and figure out who they are, because I'm telling you, these 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, like, who don't know who they are, they just causing a mess here, okay? They're just making our lives more miserable, trying to bully us all the time, because that's the only way they know who they think they are. Please, they need some help. Maybe she can start a movement and encourage other people to do the same, because she does look like she's in pain, but it looks like she is at that point where, you know, when you're kind of like have your wounds all open and band-aids have been torn off, you're ready for change, you're ready to grow, and if you accept the challenge, you end up in a better place. And that's what I'm hoping for her. Yeah, I think that's probably the best compromise for the people and, you know, our safety and her well-being. Okay, let's move on to her husband, our president, President Yoon, how he got shaded by President Biden at this big NATO summit, even after President Biden had a whole state visit to South Korea where we wined and dined him and everything. Well, it looked like in some earlier shadier edits that President Biden totally dismissed Yoon, but in the full edit, you can see like they did shake hands, but President Biden was basically like, oh, hey, hi, nice to meet you. Like talking to somebody he thinks perhaps is more important. And, you know, basically it's a super faux pas even in the United States, where they say like, you guys, when you're networking or at a public function, you don't like look over the shoulders of the person you're talking to see if there's somebody else more important you want to talk to in the room. So if it's shady in the United States, oh my God, it is such a huge faux pas in South Korea. But luckily, this is one good thing I think we have in our president, even though, you know, he makes a lot of shady comments and, you know, kind of a little bit racist comments and anti-minority comments. He is a person who is not somebody, I believe, with an inferiority complex. So you saw him, you know, just kind of sort of laugh it off. He was there on a mission, and wow, well, at least with the reports that are coming out about like what he's been doing, which has been good, a little bit more transparency, he's been meeting every single head of state on the sidelines, because we are not officially part of NATO, but it's an opportunity, I guess, for joint collaboration, and the president is on a mission to just make sure that we have defense and economy taken care of. And usually the conservative presidents are not shy about being the international salesperson for our industries here in Korea and leading the charge in that. The liberal presidents also do it. They have to do it. They want to do it. But it's a little bit more complicated, and usually their teams are a little bit more xenophobic. So it's kind of ironic. The conservatives are extremely xenophobic within the country, like they don't want the outsiders in, but then in terms of like who goes out into the world and is more open to cutting deals, those are more of the conservatives. So you kind of have to like add another layer of complexity when you analyze the conservative liberal thing here in Korea. All right, so he was meeting with President Biden and the Prime Minister of Japan to strengthen the security alliance. Even before Yoon Suk-yeol went to Madrid, China and North Korea were saying like, we don't want you to do that. We think that that would be extremely inappropriate, and Korea's prime minister was like, rude, you can't tell us what to do. And North Korea specifically said that they don't think that this is a good move because they don't want to see an Asian style NATO develop with the alliance between Japan and United States and South Korea. You know, the president, all he has to do is essentially create the momentum and link the staffs to then go on the working level. And so that, I think, was pretty good progress. And then he had a meeting with the leaders of Denmark, France, and Australia on energy projects, including nuclear, because, you know, we have a very active nuclear plant construction business in South Korea. He also met with Poland on defense industry deals. He met with the Dutch Prime Minister to pitch Korea's semiconductors. So all in all, I think he's doing a good job getting out there and, yeah, be the salesman for Korea, leave the domestic stuff to working level, you know, people here so that he can, you know, stay out of trouble on that. All right, let's go over the ugly truth about fashion show after parties, or kind of like the entertainment industry after show parties in general. We have some photos that were uploaded by people on their, you know, Instagram or on their social media, where it showed BTS V, Lisa from Blackpink, and the actor Park Bo-gum at the after party for the Celine fashion show. And, you know, it didn't look like these models were there, or if they were models, there were some of the scarier looking ones, because it looks like they were like literally demonic. So let's show the video first of like them just being, you know, medium dark. They're just, you know, dancing on a stripper pole, but you can see how they're being goaded into it. I mean, there's nothing that wrong, I guess, these days with the stripper pole, because they even use it in like an exercise class, and everybody been on a stripper pole, you know, one time or another. And it's more important to ask, but who are you there with at the stripper pole? And what are they really trying to get you to do? And so, you know, this video looked a little, you know, cutesy, but then look at the people that they took pictures with that were like lobbing onto them like they were energy vampires. Now, this is why I think the solo members now of BTS have to really watch out for themselves, because one thing that I always admired about them, it seemed as if after every big event, they would skip the after parties and have their own after parties with the fans, you know, via live vlog or VLive or whatever you call that. And they really kind of shared the cool, you know, the cool energy from the event, and then directly were engaging with the fans. And I think that really helped make a win-win for the fans. They love it because of course you want to see the stars after the event, and they gave that to you. And for them, I think it was very good because it protected them from the negative influences. And so now that they're solo, they're gonna want to go to some event to celebrate after every cool show or performance or any kind of schedule that they have. But now they're gonna be a lot more vulnerable to people just trying to take from them. I'm sure they're used to that to some extent, where, you know, there's kind of like a security, but now it seems as if they're going to have to make even more individual choices in that situation. And so of course we can't protect them 100, you know, all, because we're not going to baby them, because part of them is trying to grow up and part of that is making your own decisions. But at the same time, I do want to say, like, for the army that wants to be more protective of the BTS members going out on their own, I would say one area to focus on are these after parties, because, I mean, just like a stripper pole, everybody been to some sort of after party or party that goes crazy and you go crazy or whatnot. And, you know, it's not always good, but it comes at a more, it's more volatile for them. It's different from, you know, you and I going, because they're just much more of a target. And so I would say, like, in that sense, I don't know exactly how. I'm just like lobbing that out to you, Army, if you have any ideas on how to protect them from the after party, if you think that's appropriate, because, you know, they should go, they should learn, they should just be really aware that these are like A-class vampires if I ever did see one. You know, I've taken pictures with some crazy people. I've never seen crazier people than these photos of the way that they're looking in the camera. Oh my God, scary. Scary. All right, so speaking of solo projects from our BTS members, you guys all know Jungkook and Charlie Puth released their song last Friday, although really it's Charlie Puth's song just featuring Jungkook. So overall, I thought it was cute. It was definitely in that bubblegum pop, westernized music. It is Charlie Puth's song after all. A little bit superficial, but super catchy, you know, super well, kind of like manipulating, you know, like the left and the right, you know, it was very well crafted, I would say. But again, you know, kind of lacking deep meanings that a lot of the BTS army really likes BTS songs for. And even though I thought, you know, the song was good, the performance was good, the video was good, like everything I thought was really good about it, but I kind of could not help feel that like Jungkook was kind of used in this situation. But what I do really like about the way that the BTS runs its sort of business is that, let's say it's even just, you know, it's sort of unfair, you know, this is kind of unfair. They just kind of keep moving it, like just keep moving forward, you know, just like, might be unfair, I'm on to the next project. Not gonna linger. They don't put all their eggs in one basket. However, I do feel, you know, just to continue the conversation from the emergency exit video, that there came a point where somebody was trying to put all their eggs in a basket and taking it all for themselves. And they wanted to, I think, put no, do not pass go on that movement. So how could we interpret this as well? Well, it's a little bit odd, I think, that they collaborated with not Charlie Puth per se, but Charlie Puth is part of Warner Music, which is the rival of Universal Music, and with Big Hit turning into Hybe, with the connection with Scooter Braun, they are basically going to be aligned with Universal Music Group. So that's a little bit interesting, and perhaps that's how they get out of the whole contractual thing, because if he's just featured on a different artist's album, it looks like perhaps that might not infringe upon the rights, because the main thing that they're protecting is the copyright to the actual song, and usually it's owned by the record label or the, you know, even big distributor, depending on how that was going. A lot of the conflicts that Scooter Braun had is that he had his management company, and he would put his name on every single song as like a co-writer, you know, on Ariana Grande's song, Justin Bieber's song. Like if you look, all these songs, even the Kids Bop version, you know, he's supposedly the writer or one of the producers of the song. And so that means he always gets a cut, and they call it like points, like, you know, what percentage of the royalties go to a particular person, and the people in charge of that are usually the people who have the ownership of the song or the producer or writer. The artist kind of comes a little like way late, unless you're like Dolly Parton, and for somehow she figured out how to like own the songs and even license them out, because, you know, I Will Always Love You, we think it's a Whitney Houston song. Well, Dolly Parton owns it. She sang it first, and then she licensed it out to Whitney Houston, and so every time that played, Dolly Parton would be getting checks. So that is what they're really protecting. So if Jungkook can't own the song anyway, or Big Hit can't own the song anyway because it's on Charlie Puth's album over at Warner Music and not Universal, then I could see how like that's maybe the strategy that they're using to kind of, you know, do things where you can do that if it's not your own album. I would be really curious to see how J-Hope's new album is structured, his solo, like how the ownership structure is going to be on that when that gets released. But we'll all see. We can all share information here on the comments below. What do you guys think? And I do want to give a shout out to my original subscribers who were a little bit concerned about the BTS content, but I hope, you know, we're all gonna be this place is the whole shade room, okay? This is a shade report, don't worry. But and then I also want to really thank all of the people who newly came to this channel because of the BTS content and say that they're enjoying the other takes on, you know, what it's really like to be here in Korea. And so thank you all for being part of this channel, and the comments section is like a wealth of information all the time. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. All right, guys. Well, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again later. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.